All right. Welcome to another practice episode of Culty Country with Jess and Kirsten. As usual, for the few family members watching, this is not meant to offend or insult anybody that has been involved in anything that is cult or cult-like, especially those that have been hurt by those organizations. However, some of these are so strange that we do make some jokes from time to time. It's just how we cope with weird information and processing some of these weird stories.
Yes.
So with that, I'll hand it over to Kirsten.
So in today's episode, we're going to explore one of the most polarizing figures in modern spirituality, Teal Swan. Depending on who you ask, she is either a transformative voice in trauma healing or a controversial influencer whose teachings have raised serious ethical concerns. Like Jess mentioned, this one goes a little bit more into suicide and suicidal thoughts, things like that. So just be aware, and if that is not something you were able to listen to, please, we understand. But to start off, who is Teal Swan? She was born Mary Teal Bosworth in 1984 in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She's very young.
Yes.
She's only 2 years older than me. She has publicly described experiencing severe ritual abuse during her childhood and claims these claims form the foundation of her personal narrative. She has said that surviving extreme trauma led to the development of intuitive and extrasensory abilities.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I found that really interesting when I read that.
Well, first, sorry that,
no,
that it happened to her.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry she suffered anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
I am a little concerned about where we're headed and what she learned from, unfortunately, those situations she might be replicating. I hope not. I hope that's not where we're headed.
Right. But yeah, no, it was pretty telling though. When I read that, I was like, oh,
poor woman.
Yeah, exactly. However, her accounts have been questioned by skeptics, and there's no publicly available independent verification of the specific details of her claims.
So she's making the claim. She hasn't filed charges against anybody or anything.
Correct.
So there's never been an investigation, and hence no evidence of abuse. Oh, that's tough.
Yeah. Not to say we don't believe her.
Yeah.
But as a young adult, she began sharing her ideas online on YouTube. Her content blends spirituality, psychology, and trauma healing concepts and what she calls shadow work.
Okay.
We'll get more into the shadow work in a little bit, but I found that kind of interesting as well, that blending all of those together.
Yeah.
By the early 2010s, she had built a substantial online following. She began hosting workshops and retreats, first in the United States and then eventually internationally, like we have been seeing.
That makes me wonder. I'll just throw this pin in there from our last podcast. It's starting to make me wonder if they start here, they test and figure out what works, and then when it works and they're about to get in trouble, then they skedaddle to another country real quick to replicate what worked in a place where they won't get in as much trouble. I hope that's not what's happening, but I'm starting to wonder.
Yeah, no, most definitely. She's authored several books, including The Completion Process, which outlines her approach to healing trauma by revisiting painful memories in a structured, immersive way, which I've heard, and I cannot remember the name of the therapy that I've heard becoming more popular, but it is a little bit more of the intrusive, like you have to almost relive some of the things, and I can't remember the name of that therapy.
EMD.
Yeah, something like that. And so it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, I don't know. Those don't take us on those initials. I just
no,
put that up.
But it's something along those lines. And so it was interesting to read that she also started doing that. It sounds like even maybe before this was a popular thing, more popular way of.
So is she trained to do this? No. Okay.
I don't know.
Excuse me.
I don't believe so. In my stuff, I never saw where she went to school for that or anything.
Oh, that's dangerous.
So it's just her doing it on her own.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. At the center of Teal Swan's philosophy is the belief that emotional pain must be fully felt in order to be healed. So again, you're reliving that pain to move forward through it. She argues that depression, anxiety, self harm, and suicidal ideation often stem from unintegrated trauma. Her completion process encourages individuals to revisit traumatic memories and provide their younger selves with the emotional validation and care they lacked at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So,
if she did have what she says happened to her happen, I can see how she would highly value a process like
Yep.
that, where you're talking to yourself at that age or at
Yep.
that experience and giving comfort.
uh-huh.
That makes some sense of what may be
Yep.
underneath
Yeah,
her.
I know it's hard. Like when I
Yeah.
was doing my research on her, I was like, oh, okay, and then I'm like, no, I remember. Like,
Yeah, there's damage being done.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Another major theme in her work is the shadow work, the integration of suppressed or disowned aspects of the self. While this concept loosely resembles ideas of the Jungian psychology, sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly.
Jungian.
Jungian, yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
I do not know.
Swan presents it within a spiritual framework. She frequently speaks about radical authenticity. She criticizes what she calls spiritual bypassing, the use of positivity of spiritual language to avoid confronting painful emotions. So it's like she wants to confront them, but
So, not knowing as much as you know from researching this, I immediately thought, like, the ritualistic abuse she may have suffered may have been religiously based.
Yep.
And perhaps the religion was teaching her and or females in general to be positive, to be what many women are taught to be their whole lives, accommodating,
yes.
all these positive things. And so maybe her association is that was the harmful piece, because she didn't get to process or bring forward or deal with what was negative happening to her.
Right.
So I was making the assumption that it was her, that there was a potential religious layer to that approach, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Swan also describes herself as having psychic or extrasensory abilities, stating that she can perceive emotional and energetic patterns in others, which I don't know that is a legitimate thing. I do think some people have the ability to read people better and feel that energy off of people differently and things like that. Whether or not I don't know of any scientific legitimacy.
Well, I think about this will just tell you how dippy I am, I guess. But there's like a TV show about a guy who reads jury members during jury member selection for cases. Yeah. And so it's like human behavior and kind of, and if she studied psychology, maybe she has studied human behavior enough to get tells from people, or to be able to describe who and how they are, and like quickly tune into it for her purposes is what I would assume is happening.
And she may have done some studying in psychology, but maybe not like on her own type of a thing. But my stuff, I couldn't find
like a degree or something.
Anything like that. But so in the mid 2010s, Teal Swan had become a prominent figure in online spirituality. Excuse me. Her YouTube channel grew significantly. She cultivated a strong presence on social media platforms discussing relationships, trauma, emotional suffering, and suicide. She developed a community often referred to as the Teal Tribe. Followers attended retreats, workshops, and intensive seminars. Many supporters described feeling deeply seen and understood by her work. And again, that kind of probably comes back to her being able to tell if she'd done any of that research on people. Some say her teachings reached emotional wounds that traditional therapy had not addressed. However, as her visibility increased, so did criticism. This next part does get into the suicide aspect of some of her criticism and things like that. And I actually found an article that I'm going to read a little bit of an excerpt from on somebody that their family, they committed suicide and their family members did a BBC article. And it was very interesting to read. But in 2008, a widely discussed investigative article examined concerns raised by former followers and families of individuals who had died by suicide. Critics argued that some of Swan's earlier content discussing suicide could be interpreted as normalizing or romanticizing it.
Oh.
So I think with some of that very intensive therapy, it
to what benefit to her?
that's
an odd.
Yeah.
Unless, like, deep down secretly she wants to and she wants relief, and so she's trying to offer it to others.
Right.
While they make her rich.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's very sad. They pointed to videos in which she discussed suicide as an option people consider and suggested that vulnerable viewers might interpret her framing as validating self-destructive thoughts. So the article that I'm mentioning, that this family shared a story of their daughter. She'd been struggling through a really rough breakup, and unfortunately the family didn't know how bad she was struggling until it was too late. So the mom was having a hard time understanding why her daughter did this and everything like that. And so she went and scoured the daughter's social media accounts, and that is where she spotted clues that this is exactly from the article. So it's from bbc.com. She spotted that Casey had shared her pencil portrait on Facebook with the caption identifying it as Teal Swan, and soon realized her daughter had joined the Teal Tribe, a private Facebook group, which means only members can see what is in it. Sarah joined the group and was horrified at what she discovered. She wrote a post by her daughter saying that she had tried to take her own life. The picture with the post was a stock image of a woman holding two fingers to her head like a gun. In response, two people, including one of the volunteers that helped moderate content in the group, replied with Swan's video entitled, "I want to kill myself, what to do if you're suicidal." In the video, Swan urges those who are feeling suicidal to seek medical help, which I do appreciate, but goes on to say that in her experience, for some people, this may not help long term. She instead suggests that suicide be seen as our safety net or our reset button that's always available to us. She urges those viewing in it in this way enables people to set this idea aside and instead concentrate on what they can do to make themselves feel better in the present.
That is astonishing to me.
Yeah. I was really mortified with that article.
Yeah. First, I do know from trained counselors that it's not abnormal,
right,
to think of suicide at some point in your life, whether it's when you're 10 or when you're in your 90s. Like, it can happen.
Right.
But the way she tries to normalize it and then make it a reset button, that is not... Please, if you're thinking about this, get help, because people can help you navigate the layers underneath the reason you're feeling that potential outcome. Yeah. And they can help you turn it around, hopefully. Yeah. But holy smokes.
Yeah, it was very, very sad. But it is unknown that if Sarah, the daughter, Casey, the daughter, had actually viewed the video by Teal, but her posts prior to death reflect a lot of Swan's language, including the references to rebirth. So they can't say for sure she did watch that video, but there's the language that is present. And it is important to state clearly that there has been no legal finding that she encouraged anyone to take their life. So she's not had charges pressed against her for that.
Yeah, I could see how it would be hard to connect her to that action. However, it feels irresponsible.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm having mixed feelings a little bit, because I'm like, oh, I kind of appreciate a little, don't take that with too much weight. I kind of appreciate that Teal is open and honest about her
own struggles.
Her own struggles, her approach to it, and her opinion. And that's the best I can say is it's just an opinion. It is not a clinical or founded, like this is a solution to repairing your life that all of science knows across the planet. Like this sounds opinion. Like she had a rough something happen. She knows what works for her, and she's real curt about it. It sounds like well, here you go. If you're in this situation, this is your options. And it's a little. It just feels irresponsible.
Yeah, it's very irresponsible. Yeah. So it is hard to necessarily link her. Yeah. But she's not doing
their opinions, and we don't know how it's going to impact somebody. But that's a heavy duty.
That's a life or death, unfortunately, opinion.
Yeah. That's terrible.
Yeah, that was rough. But Swan has repeatedly denied encouraging suicide. She states that her intention has always been suicide prevention through direct acknowledgement of suicidal feelings. She argues that that open discussion, reduces shame and helps people feel less alone. Which I don't, again, disagree with. This one was very difficult to do a lot of research on, because you're like, oh yeah, like I understand that, and then you're like, no. Like, it's irresponsible. It. It's after criticism intensified, some of her suicide-related videos were edited or removed.
Oh.
Yeah. So I found that interesting. So they know something was wrong with those, knowingly. The debate remains active. Does openly discussing suicide reduce harm, or does it risk unintended consequences when not framed with clinical guidelines? Which is kind of what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
It can be considered very irresponsible.
And I'm thinking of our first practice episode where they all did commit a mass suicide together, thinking that was how they transported to wherever.
Oh, yes.
Like I could see, groupthink is easy. It's easy to join something and one part of it speaks to you, so then you drink the whole cup of Kool-Aid. Yep. So this to me is a pretty scary thing. So if you're normalizing it and you're saying it's a reset, that might just be the thing somebody needs to go there.
Right.
And that's the dangerous part of it.
Yep. So
I guess I do feel like there is a responsibility on her part or their part if it's a group of her
followers.
People. Yeah. That's
but
that's hard.
Yeah. It's very difficult. Now it goes into the cult allegations. Another reoccurring criticism is that Swan's organization exhibits characteristics similar to high control groups. The former associates have alleged hierarchical inner circles, social pressure, and emotional intensity that they have described as manipulative. So, can again manipulate you to do things that you not normally would. These claims gained renewed attention with the 2022 documentary series The Deep End, which followed Swan and her members for, it says over several months, but another article I read was over 3 years. So I'm not sure how long it exactly was. And the documentary is no longer available on Hulu to watch freely. You have to have an additional subscription, which I remember when it came out and I watched it. So it's interesting now that it's behind a little bit of a wall.
Maybe just to get to out and went to another channel, sub-channel or something.
Yeah. The series presented a complex portrait. It showed moments of compassion and apparent healing, while also documenting internal tensions and the departure of team members who expressed concerns about leadership dynamics. Swan has denied operating occults. Again, she has a lot of denials of what she's doing. She states that strong emotional bonds naturally form in trauma healing environments and that participants are free to leave. Experts who study cult dynamics typically cite features such as authoritarian leadership, isolation from outsiders, financial exploitation, and discouragement of independent thought. And a lot of the people within that have left have talked about all of those being a part of the Teal tribe,
So,
I guess.
do you know, and maybe you're gonna get to it, like how is she making money? Is it subscription? Is it
I
membership?
think it's through all of her. It wasn't really, again, fully laid out in a lot of it. It's kind of crazy because until you go, like, I think I don't want to join the Teal tribe to find out some of that.
Do you want to shut that door? Sorry.
And I was like,
I know. Sorry if you're hearing footsteps all around us. We're not haunted.
So I think it's through her seminars, and she does like the workshops and at her property. I think that she has a lot of people that live there and things like that, and so she exploits their money.
Money, free labor. I
Yep. And kind of where they almost like a compound where they all live and work together and grow their own foods and
Okay.
some of that stuff. The international part, I think, is like through her videos and her YouTube channel, you can get monetized on those things, and so I'm sure with subscribers and things like that on that, she's also making.
Yeah. So, what country did she go to?
So she's still here in America. She never fully left. I think just
Okay.
her practices or her teachings went international,
Okay.
but she's still here in New Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, she stayed in New Mexico, which I found interesting as well.
So what she's doing must not be illegal.
Yeah.
Although I would argue if you were getting what I'm perceiving as counseling, even though it's like probably labeled as self-improvement, that's malpractice to not be a licensed.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels dangerous to me. I thought maybe she had skipped to another country because of that or something, but no, she's still here.
Yeah, she is still here. So the completion process, that's a big part of her therapeutic practice, is her signature method. It involves guiding individuals into a meditative state and revisiting the traumatic memories in detail, encouraging them to fully feel suppressed emotions and imaginatively complete unmet needs. Some mental health professionals caution that revisiting trauma without clinical safeguards can be destabilizing. They emphasize the importance of licensed supervision when working with severe trauma. Swan is not a licensed therapist.
Yeah, that's...
So yeah, I do think there could be some sort of malpractice.
I guess it wouldn't be malpractice if
she
she's
doesn't
not
have, but there's something.
Physician, but yeah, you would think there would be a lawsuit of some kind that would say you messed with me without a license.
Yeah, you tried to treat me clinically, and there's no clinical.
Yeah.
But supporters argue that many spiritual teachers operate outside formal clinical systems, and that lived experience can offer powerful insight, which I do think that is probably true with some of the yoga. What is it? What is his name? I'm totally blanking. The yoga gurus that do a lot of like the Indian spirituality.
I don't know.
And the yoga retreats and things like that they bring in a lot of that kind of therapy, and it's not clinical either.
Yeah.
It's not this, and they're not talking suicide or anything like that. It's more of like a brainwashing, I would say, maybe. I'll have to remember that name. I'll keep thinking about it. But the broader question emerges: when does self-help become mental health treatment? And what responsibilities do influencers carry when discussing serious psychological conditions? So I do think that could come into the fact of, is she being responsible? No. I don't think she's being responsible with people's lives and their...
And not to... I mean, it's not all on her, because there are others that do things that are irresponsible, that draw people in, because so many people do want to feel belonging, do want to feel self-improvement, do want to disconnect from the rat race and be part of something that they feel is meaningful, and maybe this does feel meaningful. How easy is it to leave?
So she says that they can just leave at any time. So
that's probably the biggest marker of them maybe not being a cult.
Yep.
but rather just being an unsafe,
Mhm.
a potentially unsafe organization. Because
Right.
I don't know the statistics on the harm versus
Yeah.
the good.
Yeah, and there's not much necessarily research on that even
Yeah.
within this
With how secretive
place.
they probably are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. For the deep end, the viewers witnessed emotionally intense workshop sessions, internal organizational challenges. Some felt the series humanized her and demonstrated sincere efforts to help others, but others felt it reinforced concerns about influence and power.
Mm.
She has stated that the documentary was edited in a way that was very misleading, so it didn't help her, it more hindered her.
So it kind of spun her as a bad guy.
Yep.
Is that what she thinks?
That's what she says, yeah.
Okay.
So one reason, sorry, I had a hair. So why is she so polarizing? She exists at the intersection of trauma awareness, social media influence, alternative spirituality, and mental health advocacy. She speaks directly about taboo topics, abuse, rage, suicidal ideation, and emotional despair, which is not a topic that people talk about. So I appreciate that, being open and
Sure. Like I said, being direct and being
Yeah.
honest, that's a nice quality. But when you're dealing with somebody who's like might be in a fragile state, that maybe you're not really aware of the depths of the fragile state,
it can be hindering.
dangerous. Yeah.
Yep. For some, that directness feels life-saving. Others, it feels risky, like we just said. Her rise also reflects a broader cultural shift. The internet has I don't know what did I type then?
Democratized.
Thank you. I'm like, words are hard today. Authority. Individuals can build a massive following without institutional oversight and formal credentials. So yeah, that just goes into influencers in general.
Yeah.
That is a huge thing with social media anymore. These people are out there showing their perfect lives, and they're just showing the good. They're not always showing what actually happens at home. And I think that can be, again, irresponsible because you're trying to be all perfect. And
so maybe this documentary showed the peek behind the curtain, and maybe that's why she's saying it was edited a certain way, and she would have preferred it to be edited for her gain.
Yep.
But it was probably honest.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully it was honest.
Seemed very honest.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yikes.
So I did go and try to do like a perspective of what her supporters say about her. They describe her as deeply empathetic, uniquely perceptive. They say that her teachings have helped confront trauma that led to that have remained unresolved for years. They argue that critics misunderstand her direct communication style and that personal agency ultimately lies within each individual. Which, agreed. We all have to make our own decisions.
We do all need to make our own decisions.
But if you are at a spot where you are vulnerable and things like that, you're going to listen to those around you.
Yeah, I think.
Or reach out.
I think a piece of developing sound agency for yourself is to have one or more touchstones of like, this is feeling great. Hey friend, does this look okay from the outside?
Yes.
Or does this look like the beginning of a cult organization? Or does this look harmful? Or is there a legal risk to something that these people are implementing?
Right.
Like you have to have touchstones to say, I want to go down this path, but I just need somebody from the outside who is not connected to it to tell me what is this from the outside.
Yep.
And then if they say it's bananas, it's up to you to weigh that touchstone against what you're experiencing. And if they say it looks phenomenal, here's all the stuff I see from the outside, go forward. Then again, you take your agency and decide if it's worth going further. But you have to have touchstones.
Yes.
And I know that's hard if you're raised in a family that maybe they're of a religious or philosophical persuasion where they've controlled your life. That's probably not the touchstone to use.
But you have friends.
Yeah, it could be one touchdown, but you probably need to have others that are outside of something that has also controlled you your whole life. So
definitely
that you can just get perspective
mm-hmm.
and then take the data in and say, okay, is this going to be harmful? Or if it doesn't feel harmful, what's my escape plan?
Yes.
What's my easy out if I hit something that feels wrong? Make sure that one
you
exists.
can always easily get out.
Yeah. And it sounds like people here can bail. But
from everything I saw,
may or may not have trauma from the experience.
Yeah. Right.
It's not the right services for you, I guess.
Right. And again, they do kind of cut people off from family and things like that.
They
from
do.
From the communicating of family. Like, so the girl earlier, she still was with her communicated and things like that, like a little bit.
She had hidden her tribe involvement.
Yeah, and kind of was pulling away from her family. And so they didn't know that she was even struggling to that severity.
So that may or may not be the Teal tribe. I'm definitely not defending anybody or anything, but it could be that when you're in a fragile state and you're looking for connection, it might be easy to pull away from those you're not feeling safe or connected with.
Yeah.
So that may not be not be the organization's fault. That may be the individual. Sorry, I keep tapping. It might be the individual's fault, but the individual's agency to pull away. So that's a tough one in this scenario. In others, if it is the organization saying these people aren't supportive of you or don't see you, cut them off. If that tribe maybe tells people that, then it would be problematic for sure.
Definitely.
At the same time, would a therapist tell you that if you were going to a licensed therapist? I don't know.
And it depends on the toxicity, I guess, of
what you're experiencing.
Yeah. And who you're talking about or who's involved, I guess.
So this is probably why
there's such a fine line.
Yeah, they're able to keep surfing because they're not.
They're walking such a fine line.
Yeah, like they're not holding any of the responsibility. They're able to do harm, but not in a way that's like, I've got you on a leash and you're broke and you're homeless. Like, I'm doing harm and you can come and go as you want to take it. If it's harming you.
Right.
Because it may not.
Right. Yeah.
That's a red flaggy to me.
I know.
I mean, it's not a cult by definition, I don't think at all.
I don't think so either.
But
there's still so many red flags.
Yeah, it kind of feels like if I'm thinking of the Keith Raniere thing, this almost feels, so it's been going for 15 plus years?
Yep, 2010.
So so this almost feels like it's the early years of the Keith Raniere thing, like before they got really controlling, like they just were establishing and building their people. So this to me feels risky because it may not be harmful in that larger cult sense today. Right. But they're a mechanism away from implementing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Please don't implement that. But
no,
I'm just
but
saying,
that's it may not be there yet. Yeah. But it's on that path to possibly going
and I think,
more cults by definition.
Yeah. Well, even just thinking of human existence, like it's almost dangerous, small scale or large scale, to put all your eggs in one basket. Yes. Even religiously or philosophically, like it's almost like if you just say, oh, I really believe this, I really like this, and I believe this, and then you just wedge yourself into it and absolutely ignore all other perspectives,
all other sides,
then you really are disconnecting from the globe. It's healthier to say, "Ooh, this one speaks to me. It's good for me. I love it. I wish the whole world was doing this." But we're a bouquet of ideas and things, and keep your mind open. You don't have to ever believe or drink the other Kool-Aids, but just make sure you're aware they're still there. There's room for.
There's things going on. Yeah. There's other items. There's other ideas. There's other Yeah. So, critics' perspective. Critics raise concerns about charismatic authority combined with vulnerable followers, like we just talked about. They question the blending of spiritual claims, such as psychic abilities, with psychological intervention. Yeah. They also argue that discussions of suicide require carefully structured safeguards, particularly when addressed with large audiences. So again, when you are talking suicide and looking at those types of clinical psychologies, things like that, like she's not clinically trained. She's not clinically licensed. There are so many irresponsibilities with how she's acting and how the tribe is acting. I shouldn't say just her, within the suicide aspect of things.
Yeah, because if you stand up in front of a group, strangers or friends, say, I feel I'm at wit's end, and I say, do it.
Yeah.
Then you're maybe embarrassed, humiliated, hurt further, and in front of strangers or peers. Like, that just to me would compound.
Yep, everything I was feeling.
If you were in a vulnerable state. And that's, so that to me is icky.
Again, it just going back to, it's not just about her. She's not the only person. Yes, she started this. Yes, she's the driving force of it, but it reflects the deeper societal tensions, how trauma is addressed, gaps in the mental health system, which is huge, and then the hunger for belonging in a fragmented world. Yeah. Everybody wants to belong. You can't deny that. No matter what the world is for you, you want to belong to something.
Yeah. Everybody at some point in time hurts. Everybody at some point in time feels disconnected. Yes. Everybody has that sensation. So I do appreciate that that she's taken, I guess, a different angle of it. Maybe a little bit more direct and honest, because I am somebody that kind of can be that way at times, and I would probably respond better to something like that. Right. But I also would want to go to somebody licensed so that they're responsible for any damage they cause to me, that they can be held liable. So I appreciate where she's coming from. I wish she would get credentials. So that
or even if she didn't have credentials, there's nothing showing that anybody within the tribe has credentials. So even if it's not her, nobody has those credentials to be able to help in these psychological situations. Yeah. Which is very sad and disturbing.
It is. It's important because if something goes south, you have a direct line to this person who is a player in an equation.
Exactly.
Can be held by a board accountable or a state or
or call for some additional help outside.
Yes.
That may have the just fortitude of, like, they took an oath as a doctor or a clinical licensed professional to do no harm. Yeah. And
yeah, we're in a new age. I mean, we've probably been in a new age for a while, but we really are, where people are desperate for new approaches to things because, like she's capitalizing on it, things aren't working for some people.
Yeah. And we do have a mental health crisis, especially in the United States. There isn't the aspects, there's not the avenues, it's still taboo to go to therapy and things like that. And I think
it's costly.
It costs a lot, and it's not always covered by insurance, which is terrible.
Or you get X number of sessions, and it's like, how does that address
how am I supposed to do this in 3 sessions?
Yeah. So it's not designed to keep people healthy.
Exactly.
I get it, but you have to still choose the person who will do the least amount of harm, or at least be accountable if they cause harm, if that's the risk you want to take.
Exactly. Oof. Yeah. So she still continues to produce online content, host events, and maintain active following. She continues to deny any wrongdoing and states that her mission is to reduce human suffering. But there's still the public debate of, is she really trying to reduce human suffering?
Or is she capitalizing on it?
Yeah, I think she's capitalizing on it, in my personal opinion.
So what happens when you're better?
Right.
Are you still part of the tribe?
Because I don't think she fully makes you better.
Yeah.
I don't think her teachings or anything like that, you're never better. Which is sad.
Then that's capitalizing on it. Just like she probably says that the legitimate system does. But the legitimate system is slow and steady because it is cautious. It is trying not to do harm. It is trying to build something over time, not a rapid, direct response that may harm you or may help you. It's a very calculated, methodical, how do you help somebody out of the hole they might feel they're in.
Exactly.
So she's a risk taker.
Yes. Yes. So, just in conclusion on my part, that Teal's Swan represents both the promise and the peril of internet age spirituality. For some, she is a guide through profound darkness, but for others, she's a cautionary example of how influence can outpace accountability. And as with many complex figures, the full picture resists simple conclusions. I would say, because this one did talk again so much about suicide, if you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts, please contact local emergency services or a suicide prevention hotline in your area.
Yes, please. Or reach out to a friend if you need to start there and let them know that you're struggling first, and they will help you find resources if need be.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's a doozy. This is a good example of a question mark. Like, is this cult or cult like?
Yeah.
So this one, I'd probably say not a cult.
I would agree.
I do have our end of session questionnaire.
Yes.
If you might be willing to scoot your chair a little that way, we're going to bring our producer Brendan, who you may have heard us joke about doing intro music. He has created it for us, but he's also here to help us produce today's podcast. So we're going to have him participate in our culty check-in that we're trying to do at the end of each episode. So wave hi, Brendan.
Hi. Oh yeah, I probably should use your microphone.
Yeah. Okay, so Kirsten, what is the weirdest thing you learned about this organization?
I would say that, again, it's actually not a cult, but that it is very much an irresponsible group trying to say they are helping people with traumas and things like that, but are not doing it on a way that really should be handled.
I think the weirdest thing is the medical malpractice and the fraud that comes into play with these cults, especially. I'd say that's the weirdest thing. It's just how willingly people can manipulate people for financial profit.
For me, it's that her name is Teal Swan.
Also, yeah.
That is very interesting.
And where it comes from, nobody, she just came up with it.
Yeah, I mean, her name is something Teal Bosworth.
Mary.
Yeah, maybe she was married and had a last name Swan, or maybe has a grandma or relative.
Yeah. Stage name.
A stage name.
Could be.
Yeah, it sounds good. It just is an interesting, weird name. Kirsten, what do we admire about this organization?
I don't know. I don't know if there's much that I do. Again, I think maybe her directness, like you said, of talking about tough subjects and things like that, I do think that, again, can be beneficial at times. But I don't know that there's much I admire on this one.
Is there anything you admired?
I would agree in the sense that I don't admire much about this, but I do like how honest they are, in the sense that you can leave whenever, though I feel like there's some coercion that comes into play to keep them going continuously, to keep them.
You can leave, but you can't leave. Like, you don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Type of a thing.
Like you feel like you can't. Like maybe you feel bad. Maybe there's some sort of like emotional connection that was established while you were in this cult.
Yeah. Or maybe it helped in the beginning.
Right.
And so you're still hanging on to see if it'll help as you go along or something. I did admire the directness too, but from a very superficial standpoint, like when you have a friend that maybe obsesses about something for way too long and you just want to cut through the niceties.
The fluff.
Yeah, like I like the directness, because she's probably sick of hearing about people's stuff and just wants to get right to the point. So I do admire that, but I don't like the damage that it causes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kirsten, what do we think this organization needs to work on?
Getting a actual clinical person, if you want to actually help people, like you are saying you are doing. I would say just having actual clinically trained people there to do the actual therapies and to try to help people. I think if you are trying to actually help people, just
do it the right way.
Yeah, do it the correct way. Yeah.
Anything from you?
I think, if they're truly trying to help, I don't think closing it to like a locked Facebook group is the best way to play because that's very sketchy and it immediately gives me bad vibes.
Yeah, agreed. Again, profiting off of the exclusivity probably too. And finally, Kirsten, will you become a follower of Teal Swan?
No. I'm not a Teal Tribe member.
Brendan?
Hard pass.
I am probably gonna watch a TikTok or two as it comes across my feed, and I probably won't make it to the end, but I'll be curious in the beginning and scoot along, and that's as far as my involvement will ever go.
Yep, I agree.
I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket, as I mentioned earlier, so I don't think this is gonna be the group for me, in spite of them not fitting cult category, which I should have said that as something I admired, is that they don't currently fit the cult definition.
Yeah.
So that's good.
But there are
don't
signs.
Go there. There are signs, but don't go there. If they can avoid it and they can turn things around, it would be lovely.
Awesome.
All right.
That is all.
That is the end of episode 3 with our trusty producer Brendan here. We hope that our microphones worked this time.
Yeah.
And
He said they did. So if it doesn't, it's on him.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
And he made an original composition for our intro music, so he's going to have that debuting on this episode 3. He might be going back and refining our episodes 1 and 2, so we'll toss them up too. They'll have the raw, terrible attempts that Kirsten and I made on those episodes and the cleaned up version that our producer has created. So for those few family members that are entertaining us by watching these, you'll have better quality coming very soon.
Yes.
So until next month, and I don't know what we're going to do next month. It's my turn and I haven't picked an organization yet. So I'll introduce it to you next month and we'll see what I come up with. But
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.